What is going on, Amazon sellers? Welcome back to the weekly live news and Q&A show. I'm Chris Grant, along with my verisimilitudinous co-host, Chris Rasick. That one does not roll off the tongue.
I know you are, but what am I?
Right? Before we get started, today's the holy trinity of holidays. It's Amazon Prime Day. It is National Hot Dog Day, and it's David Hasselhoff's birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Hoff.
Right? I know he tunes in every single week. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but U.S. retailers sold 896 million pounds of hot dogs last year. That is more than 4 Nimitz-class aircraft carriers worth of hot dogs in a single year. For those of you who are not familiar, that the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier is the largest warship ever produced, and it weighs 204 million pounds. So anyway, I digress.
So is that
today? Yeah.
So is it total weight of the hot dogs would match those 4 aircraft carriers, or will all those hot dogs fit on 4 aircraft carriers? Is it a volume or a weight thing?
It is a weight thing. It's not a volume thing. I couldn't figure out how to figure out the volume. That was too much math for me. It's also 4 times what that guy can eat in the amount of hot dogs per year. What's his name? Nathan? I can't remember, but the hot dog guy.
Joey Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut, yes. A whole big hullabaloo about him this year. He was not in the annual July 4th hot dog eating contest. If you happen to follow those kind of things. So
if athletes are your thing.
Right. So today, as always, we're going to chat a few pieces of news that are of interest to Amazon sellers and take your questions about anything related to Amazon, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, or wholesale. But of course, before we dive in, I'd like to share with you the sponsor this week. The sponsor this week is the Wholesale Challenge. We've had a few sellers on this podcast on our podcast that have discussed the positives of adding wholesale. And in my opinion, the Wholesale Challenge is dollar for dollar the best value in the space for a wholesale course. If you want to add wholesale to your business or transition wholesale to your business. Matter of fact, I shared a picture today of someone who said that they were absolutely drowning in leads by following what Corey teaches. And the next one, the last one for 2025 starts on Monday, July 22nd. So if you are interested, head over to cleartheshelf.com/WSC to learn more. That's also down in the video description. All right.
So real quick before we move off the sponsor, I know and I don't remember the numbers that we talked about, but I know I shared some information on it in my newsletter, and I very quickly a quick Google search got me to a course that cost $3,000. Now I
Whoa.
know, yeah, and that's not even the most expensive one, right? Isn't there? What's the highest you've heard of for? I mean, wholesale courses, they seem to be. I don't know if it's like the assumption that people think they're going to have to. It takes a larger amount of capital to start, so then most courses think they could charge more for the course. You know, it's like a sliding scale or something. It seems like. But what are some of the high end courses that this is up against?
That's a good question. I have found, let's see here. We wrote a blog post on this and included the price of some courses.
Wasn't there one that was pushing almost 10,000?
I think you're correct. I do think that you're right about that. Let me just see if I know I put the prices in here. Yeah, I know that there's at least one that's pushing 10 grand. Absolutely.
That's crazy. So,
yeah.
And the wholesale challenge, of course, has no commas in the cost.
There are no commas, and we have what I like to call a slap your mother guarantee, where if you wouldn't slap your mother for the information in the course, we'll pay you not only all your money back, but some extra money back. And for this time around, I'm going to start a group chat for the people who use my link, which it happens to be the one I just shared. But if they use that link, I will drop them into a group chat where we can text message, throughout 14 days and, ask me questions, network with each other, that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be a good time.
Nice. Yeah. Good deal.
So we've got some news things. I wanted to start it off a little light because it's been a heavy news week since we last got together. We won't go into it, but I'm sure everyone knows if they've got a phone or a TV. But there's a major blow that have happened to boomers on July 15th. Boomers, grandmothers, white-haired folk, or just those people who kind of piss you off while you're standing in line at the checkout. But Target has stopped accepting personal checks as of July 15th. I'm not really sure that this is newsworthy, as I've really only seen a handful of people write checks at the store over the past year. However, not once but twice have I been asked for a check in the last year. And when I said, "Are you serious?" They both looked at me kind of with a blank stare, like I was the one in the wrong. And this is, I don't know, maybe this is just my way of getting back at them for thinking that I'm the idiot, and I don't know. They almost looked at me like when I said, "Hey, can I just Venmo you?" Like I was swearing at them, which was very, very weird. So
Venmo, okay, drug dealer,
right? The other piece of news this week is there are some new features out of Vico. And for those of you who may not be aware of what Vico is a shipping platform that used to be a company all by itself, but Amazon acquired them. I don't know whether it was just a straight acquisition or an acqui-hire. I never looked into it as much as I probably should have. But we've been shipping out, 8 to 10 merchant fulfilled packages per day. It's been a little higher over the last couple of days. But over the past month or so, we decided to switch to Vico. And by we, I mean me and my 11-year-old that I forced to pack items into bags, which he absolutely hates. But with Vico, you get credit back on your shipments up to 5%. Integrates with Amazon, Shopify, Walmart, eBay, and Etsy. And then they've added some features where it identifies and merges orders from the same customer. And it'll suggest you combine them into one shipment. They've also added the ability to sort orders by SKU, by customer, or if you are running a warehouse, by bin location. For those of you who are who actually, have a warehouse where you might do a lot of this out of your own location. And then they also offer some order routing, which this would be if you have multiple locations. What came to mind for me was one of our guests, Jassim. He's got locations in several spots across the country. If he was doing merchant fulfilled from those different locations, you could actually show how much stock is in each warehouse location, and it will help you route the orders a little bit more efficiently to get them to customers faster, and make sure you have stock in available at your warehouse or distribution center. So nice couple. I'll tell you what, I really like it. I like it for a couple of reasons. You get to double dip a little bit. You get up to 5% back in credits, which go directly as kind of a statement credit. And then I get to put in my own credit card. So I get cash back and or points on the credit card I choose. And I'm not so great with the credit card hacking, but I'm pretty sure that it's either Chase Inc. or American Express offers like 5x points on shipping.
Yep.
So
yeah, if it's classified, yeah, I think both of them have cards that have a boosted rate on shipping costs.
Nice.
And actually, the Chase one, I'm pretty sure the Chase one that does the boost on the shipping actually has an elevated introductory offer. I think they bumped their offer from 90,000 ultimate rewards points to 120,000 if you're signing up for a new card. So,
that's beautiful.
You know, yeah, if you can combine the two, a new card and you're interested in that service, could really pay off for you right about now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good time to do merchant fulfilled, and I don't know. Honestly, if just backpacks alone, which some people are like, oh, well, don't talk about that. But I mean, there's so many of them and they're easy to ship, in a nice big poly bag. It's easy money to be made. Not easy, but pretty simple. Came across another piece of news that I found fascinating. Business owners seem to be pretty happy with themselves. 91% of almost 1,300 business owners were recently surveyed by a software maker called Homebase, and they said that they were happy with their jobs. Now, this is opposite of what we normally hear. Not too long ago, the NFIB, or the National Federation of Independent Business Owners, says small business owners' optimism has been below average for 29 months, and their uncertainty is the highest it's been since 2020. Small businesses are, quote unquote, struggling to make rent and, quote unquote, racking up credit card debt. Says the NFIB says many are facing recession and some can't survive, and others are just saying they're feeling the pinch or stuck in an economic nightmare. And it's just the usual doom and gloom that you hear if you watch or read any news. But according to the author of the article that I read, even with all the headaches of running a business, most business owners would not have it any other way. They enjoy running a business. They don't want to go back to being an employee for someone else. And it just kind of goes to show you that they're relatively happy, even if happiness is relative. Some of the reasons they said that they were more happy is because running a small business means having more options. More choices, more flexibility with their life. You can choose to work 20 hours a day if you want. You could choose to work at 2 a.m. because your kids had a soccer game, or you decided to go to a concert or something like that. And I know that I was once told, I can't remember if my grandfather said this or someone else, but told me employees are no more than 2 weeks away from unemployment. At least as a business owner, you've got a little more time than that, and you have the ability to change directions. The more you can control your fate, the greater your happiness. And so I was surprised, because that flies in the face of what most people say about being a business owner.
Yeah, but I think this isn't. I think as far as the timeline goes, when I first read this, my first thought went to the Great Resignation, right? Because that was a whole after lockdowns, everyone took stock of what their time's worth, where they're spending it, how truly expendable a lot of us were to the typical in the typical W-2 employee situation. We were forced to work from home, so I think obviously we're spending more time at home. You ditch the commute, so you're all of a sudden you've got more disposable time on your hands, even though you're still working based on the circumstances. And we saw people say, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna take back my time. And we talked to Eli earlier today. He said he works in the morning, he works at night, and then the bulk of his day is spent with his family. So that was my first thought when I saw this, is what if these are all those people, the bulk of which participated in the Great Resignation? We know that applications for new businesses skyrocketed in the aftermath of the pandemic and the work from home lockdowns and all that. So what if that's all these people finally answering these poll questions? And you know what? Most of them are happy with their choice, and it's, I mean, unless you are not good at running your business, or it's just simply not working out for you so far. I mean, anybody who's having a moderate amount of success is probably really happy, because compared to what they were doing, punching a clock, I mean, if you can pull it off, it's wonderful, especially, from where you're coming from.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I'd say it's got to be close to 10 years, and there's not one time where I've been like, you know what, I want to go back to having someone tell me what to do.
Right.
And there's been
Right.
lean times, there's been hard times, there's been good times, there's been excess times. And not in any one of those have I ever been like, I really miss having someone just looking over my shoulder all the time.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it not too long ago. What if things do get lean? If I were back at a job, like, I might, I mean, I would crush at a job, so it wouldn't happen to me. But that's what everyone says. But I could easily be let go. But I could just start another. I start another business. There's always something that even in lean times absolutely crushes, and I could just start doing it because I've got that option. I don't know.
Yeah. And they say that, there's a bunch of different versions of this, but, there's somebody, that you're 10 times smarter than, that is making 10 times more than you because they took action and you're still thinking about it or planning it or whatever. There's all sorts of versions. And then, the really successful people, it's not necessarily their intelligence or resources that they have that you don't. I mean, a lot of, and this is kind of zooming out into internet money as a whole, but you can make it. It's just a matter of figuring out how, and that's, part of me feels like Amazon FBA and this business model is kind of like an entry point into that internet money, that work from home money, the location independence kind of money. I think a lot of it's just figuring out how to do it. It's not necessarily unattainable, or it's not something that you can't get to. You just need to know that you need to have the directions to it. So, but it's funny. I went to calling hours for my old boss, the full-time gig that I quit to go full-time, and there was a long line, and I was actually in, her big boss was in front of me, so I kind of watched their interaction before I got a chance to greet her. And I talked to a bunch of people that are still there, and they're like, "Hey, you still working for yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so jealous." And it's like, but it was one of the few times that I got to see the people that are still plugged into the matrix, however you want to put it, Yeah, I told she was the best boss I ever had, and I told her that. I said my new boss isn't giving you any kind of competition. He's an idiot. Um, but at the same time, even saying that, and telling her that I missed her, because I really I do have a lot of respect for her, and I enjoyed working for her. I wouldn't change a thing. There's no regrets, as I say all that stuff sincerely to her.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. There was a lot of other news, but I also want to make sure we can get to more questions this week, and I do have some ASINs that we didn't get to last week. I want to go over. So let's see here. Oh, Gene, speaking of math, Cole's cash math almost killed me trying to understand it for the first time. Yeah, it's that's definitely not the easiest. I would agree. Jerry, grocery FBA, is it required that the expiration date needs to be printed on the FN SKU label? I'm hearing it is a requirement. I always forget. I know that most people do print it. I don't necessarily think it has to be on the FN SKU label, but it has to be visible and it has to be a certain font size, if I'm not mistaken. I don't sell a whole lot of groceries, but it has to be visible on the product. I know that in the past, I have sold some groceries without putting it on the FN SKU label or putting its own label on it. And then other times we've put its own expiration date on it. I would need to double check that. You don't happen to know, do you, Chris?
My understanding was always that you need to print it on your label if it's not clearly visible on the product itself.
That's what I thought.
That's kind of the role. I'm not sure if anything's changed. Haven't gotten yelled at, so.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be on the FN SKU label, though. Jeffrey, in terms of acquiring capital, would you recommend I focus more on getting blocks instead of 0 APR credit cards? So blocks, business lines of credit. Chris, I'm gonna pitch this one to you.
The recommendation, I would recommend both. I don't think it's a one or the other kind of thing. The nice thing is you can't get money any cheaper than 0 APR, right? So you could actually pretty easily set up a system to where you get a new credit card. They give you, typically it's 12 months is what you're going to find most of the time. You get 12 months, 0%. You could charge that up, and then you can move to another card, take advantage of another 0% period. Probably limit the overlap unless you absolutely have to access the capital, but then have the line of credit, which is probably going to be about half of the interest rate that your credit cards are going to be once they do finally end that intro offer. You can use the line of credit to then clear whatever balance you have that may be getting ready to go from 0% to 19, 20, for whatever that range is, up to 29.99. You can use the line of credit to clear those balances so you don't take the bigger interest hit. So and you could actually just work it and then pay down your business line of credit. And that's the great thing about the business line of credit, is that it's revolving credit. So as you pay it down, that becomes capital that you have access to once again during the draw period. So I would just fill that line of credit up, take the minimal interest if you do have to carry balances. CPAs out there, you never want to carry balances. We know that. But it happens, especially because it sounds like you're trying to scale. And then just pay that down, charge it back up, and just kind of ride that elevator up and down with the business line of credit and take advantage of 0% APR. I mean, that's a great way to get a bunch of extremely cheap capital.
Yeah. Jamie, I have an old account from 2016 when I sold textbooks. I didn't remember it, and I started a new account. I tried to sell there, but I'm gated and everything. Should I pursue that old account? So here's the problem. You started a new account. You have another seller account. That, once Amazon figures it out, it's not a good look. Amazon does not like you having more than one seller account typically. unless you're selling, different things. It can get you into trouble. Honestly, I would probably try to talk to someone at Amazon just to make sure. Like you are allowed to have multiple seller accounts. And that is okay, but you got to make sure that there's a reason. And typically I like to always make sure ahead of time, like, hey, I'm going to open up another account. This is why. Maybe it's because I'm going to sell on account A and I'm going to teach from account B, or I'm going to do private label on account A and I'm going to do arbitrage on account B, or something like that. I don't know. This is a tough one. And well, see, and the other thing is if you had a professional account that you then closed and you're no longer paying the professional fee on that old account, you may have lost all of your ungatings anyway. Honestly, I'd probably just try to stick with what you have now and just get ungated the old-fashioned way with receipts and invoices and things like that.
Now, here's a question. Is it worthwhile to reach out to Amazon, explain the situation, regardless of what they tell you to do, just simply to have a paper trail of the inquiry itself? Could that potentially help down the road?
I would like to say yes. And like, does that make sense? Does that seem like a good idea? Yes. But does what Amazon does, is it always, what makes sense? No, not necessarily. I probably would, though. I'd rather just be able to have something on record. That way, if I have to, I can get my lawyer involved. We can go to legal. We can say, hey, I've got this, give me my account back.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the very least, you're doing an act of good faith, a documented act of good faith, which can't be bad.
Yeah. Flamingo Flyby. Am I wasting my time updating OA listings and photos? While I've had good results at times, it can be very inconsistent. I don't know what kind of time you're putting into it, but I would probably spend my time on other things personally. I mean, unless it's a listing that is just totally wrecked and you think it's going to sell a lot more and you're going to be able to sell it consistently over a long period of time. And your job is to try to make your hourly income as high as possible. So is it better to try to update the photos and beat your head against the Amazon wall, or is it better to just go out and source more? My opinion is it's probably better to go out and source more.
I wish there was more communication. Like, I sold a listing that I had recently got a notification that was search suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I did whatever. I followed the instructions, and if it was something simple and I was able to change it, so I added the description. I went and pulled something off another listing and or another store that was selling the same product and just copy and pasted it, launched it, forgot about it. And a week or two later, I sold one. And not only did I not know that it had been unsuppressed. Would that be the right term?
I think so.
Yeah. Not only had I didn't even know about that. I'd love to know, was it me?
Right.
Was I the one that did it, or is somebody else working on it too?
If I recall, Amazon used to be better about communicating those kind of things. If something changed on your listing, you'd get an email, and now, I don't know, maybe the catalog is too big. Maybe they can't send that many emails, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's all automated. It should be able to be done. Is having a lawyer on retainer worth it? So my opinion is yes. I mean, I pay to keep a lawyer on retainer. And if nothing else, I sleep a little bit better at night, but I also know when I do have a question or a thought or, a legal issue, they're just a text message away as well. So it's probably not a bad idea if you can afford it. And honestly, most of the services are pretty affordable nowadays. Going to be under 150 a month for most of those services. The rate that I pay is no longer available, so it's a little more than what I pay, but I know that they're all under like $150.
It's funny, we had when we had Jeff Schick on and we were able to talk to him, one of his, as we were working through something, I remember him saying, you know what, you want to calculate what you're taking the risk for. Like, is this a $5 profit and you have 10 units? So you're risking your account for $50, is essentially what his point was. And it's the same logic can be used when you analyze whether it's worth it to have a lawyer, to protect you just in case. It's look at what you sell, look at what you make off your store, and then look at what the retainer is. If it's $150 a month, what is that 150 protecting? To have
exactly
help, simply on the other end of the phone if you need to pick it up.
Yeah, I absolutely. Let's see here. Canadian Mom, are you allowed to buy in the USA using Prime membership and sell in Canada? I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is because Amazon, in their Prime membership terms of service, specifically says that you're not supposed to use any Prime benefits for items that you're going to resell. So even though you're taking it into another marketplace, technically you would still be breaking terms of service. And so I would not do that. Would you get caught? Probably not immediately, but I think you could at volume, and then you run into a risk. And the reason I say that you would get caught at volume is Amazon to eBay drop shipping used to be incredibly popular. I did it, and I never used my Prime benefits, so it was okay. I did it the right way, but I could never offer shipping as fast as those people, those friends of mine who were using their Prime memberships and then just cycling through Prime memberships over and over and over again. And eventually they always got caught if they scaled high enough. What do you think of Amazon lending? I got an invitation in my Seller Central account. So I thought that Amazon was pulling most of their lending, but I've seen more and more people getting Amazon offers, and I think they're from a third party now. I don't think they're directly through Amazon. I think it also depends on which third party is offering the money. If I'm not mistaken, one of them takes a percentage of sales, which almost feels like a factoring company, which that gives me the, I don't know, makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It's kind of gross. So I'd be very careful with that. If they are taking a percentage of sales, that is going to hurt cash flow a lot. The other, I think that one of them offers a 12-month line of credit, but you never know if you're going to be able to re-up, and you got to pay it. You got to pay it off every 12 months. Chances are, going to a local bank or a local credit union, you'd probably get much better terms than anything you would get from Amazon themselves.
Yeah, I went through. I've said this before. Sorry to the ones that have heard me, but I have a small business association, SBA, line of credit. And it's a interest only payments. It's a 5-year draw period with what I'm told is a pretty easy chance to re-up. Paperwork was reasonable. And they go on gross sales. I mean, they'll literally set your maximum line of credit based on your orange bars, which, all right, if that's how you want to do it, I'm okay with it.
Right. Do you mind do you mind sharing what the percentage of sales was? Like, was it 10% or 3% or?
It was 20%.
20%. That is super solid.
Yep. Yeah.
I wonder if that.
They
I wonder if they. Is it just like, hey, we're going to do 20% for everybody, or if they're like, oh, you know what, you're at 10 million in sales, we're really only going to offer you, 7% instead of 20%.
No, it was 20 before they knew any of my numbers, because he said, because we even
Fascinating.
talked about it. Yeah, because I was still part-time at that time, still had my full-time gig, and however the timing was, I remember us talking about it, like whether it was worth it to do it now, go through the process, or wait for the calendar to turn so that the gross sales were a little bit bigger to get a larger initial line. And we ended up going through with it then, because he said, you know what, just wait a year. If you end up needing more, just wait a year and give me fresh sales data. So it was 20 before they knew anything about me.
You get some seriously deep pockets as an Amazon seller going that route.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Robert, is it possible that an FBA customer return that's a switcheroo is deemed resellable and ends up back in my inventory where it can get hit with an authenticity complaint from another customer? Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. The items going back into your inventory that are returns from customers, they are looked at by FBA employees, by employees at some sort of fulfillment or distribution center. Turnover is incredibly high at these kind of places, and you're not getting like choice folks. You might be getting that. No, that's inappropriate. You're getting folks who may not really want to be there. And so if they don't really care, then, and they're like, yeah, sure, that's fine, and they just throw it back because they're trying to hit their numbers and get that Starbucks gift card because they got green on all of their KPIs for the day. It's very possible. So problem is trying to recall every single item that gets sent back to you at scale. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You just gotta kind of trust it. And if you get an authenticity complaint, you just show Amazon your invoices or receipts and say, hey, we did the right thing, we sourced it properly, and that's really all you can do. Would love to see you guys analyze. Yeah, go ahead.
Robert, let us know if did you make that up, or did that happen to you?
Yeah.
Or do you hear somebody else? I'm just curious.
Jamie, I'd love to see you guys analyze some variation listings. One of the things that we're going to look at today is a variation listing. So we'll look at that today. Big B, which do you prefer, FBA or FBM in the clothing, shoes, book bag sales category? If I could never, ever merchant fulfill ever again, I would do that. I would never merchant fulfill. But we had, Chris already said it. We interviewed a friend of ours, Eli Glukowski, earlier today. That podcast should be out later this week, maybe Saturday. And he talked about how quickly you can turn over your money. The cash to cash cycle for his account, for my account. I always forget if you've got daily pay. You do have daily payout. So for all of our accounts, we could literally go buy something, sell it, and have the money back in our account in like 48 hours. I mean, outside of a local service business, there's not really anywhere on the internet you're getting money that quickly. Heck, even with digital products, it goes through Stripe. It takes 4 to 5 days to get that money into your account. So merchant fulfilling has a big leg up if you want the speed of money to be a lot faster than FBA. Jeffrey, over the months, I've had many issues from deactivated listings, authenticity claims, detached listings, etc. while trying to pay my biz credit card on time. That's why I was thinking getting a business line of credit might be better. It would probably definitely help cash flow. Let's see here. Christian, I did sourcing camp. Awesome. I got the sad news about my Amazon account being deactivated due to an Amazon related account. I don't know the other business. Any company that can help us. We are 100% business, so no related issue. For a related account, I would suggest getting some help. Jeff Schick that's who helped me with my related account suspension. I had to go so far as to sign an affidavit and send it in that I had no idea who the other business was, and we had to keep after. I think it took 18 or 19 submissions. So I would probably get an attorney. That way, if they continue to say no, you might have the option of going to the legal department and getting an actual lawyer to look at things. Any back to school KPF sourcing tips or any general sourcing tips? I heard the volume is like Q4. I don't know if volume is Q4 level. I would throttle back on that. It is higher for sure. However, I was going to put this in the news this week. They expect it to be lower than it was last year, which is unusual. We always seem to see, Halloween and back to school shopping and Christmas shopping go up and to the right every year. And this year, they actually expect every family to spend like $30 or $40 less per family for back to school items. And it was going to end up causing an overall drop in back to school volume, although it's still a ridiculous number. It's still several $billion. The volume is higher on particular items. Absolutely. But it's going to be for a short period of time. It's going to be for, 2.5, 3 weeks. I shared a strategy that you could use on Twitter the other day. It was a video that I did not too long ago. I can't remember what I called it, but I would go look for that. And then the other thing is go out and just look at the brands that for sure are good for back to school. What brands of backpack are kids carrying to school? What are you going and seeing at Target in the back to school section? What brands of kicks are the kids wanting? Nike is sort of on the decline. Adidas, though, is on the upswing. That's something that was not true 2 years ago. So that's what I would do. I'd go look by brands. I'd look by items that are starting to climb up in the ranks, all that kind of stuff.
All right. So I want your opinion on this. Tell me if I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. Now I'll preface all this with, sourcing current events, for lack of another word, another term for it, is profitable, right? There's definitely money to be made, just going out and getting Halloween candy, based on your timing, based on when your inventory can go live and whatnot. And there's definitely money to be made, right? So I'm not a complete curmudgeon on this. However, is back to school season a little overhyped, especially this year? I think it's kind of, because maybe I just get caught reading. Maybe my social media feeds aren't diverse enough, because I kept reading this stuff and I'm like, they were trying to build a sense of urgency, and my default setting is, I'm not going to source specifically for stuff too often. I like the fact that more eyeballs, like Prime Day. I don't do anything special for Prime Day, but I might speed up some processes or some shipments because I know more eyeballs are going to be on the platform in general. And that's about the extent of my Prime Day strategy. That's what I do for back to school. It's what I do for, Halloween, outside of maybe a couple extra items. However, I was not buying the sense of urgency. Like this is, Q4, pre Q4, or a mini Q. It felt artificial to me, or maybe just an artificial sense of urgency in order to maybe sell some coaching or maybe something else that these people may have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Am I nuts?
I don't think you're completely nuts. I've never, outside of Q4, I've never been the biggest like, oh, let's go hard on this particular season. And I've never overdone it with Halloween candy. I've never overdone it with Valentine's Day candy. Has that been added into the sourcing mix? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going, if I see $5 on the ground, I'm not going to stop and pick it up. I'm not going to not stop and pick it up.
That's better.
Thank you. But I'm going to go back to a conversation I've had with Eli in the past, since he's top of mind. He's kind of like, I'm going to take it like you. There are going to be more eyeballs on there. I'm going to stick to what I know, and because there are more people there, maybe they are buying backpacks, maybe they are buying shoes. Mom is also going to pick up a new beauty product for herself, or maybe one of the kids is going into middle school and wants to start wearing makeup, so they're going to go ahead and add a little bit of makeup to the checkout. I don't know. Maybe I'm lazy too. I don't necessarily want to ship out a ton of products from home. If I were 25 again, maybe that changes. Maybe I'm just a curmudgeon these days. So I don't know. Is there money to be made? Yes, absolutely. Is it as big as Q4? No. If I were going to go back out, and if I were going to choose one season to do nothing but take advantage of every single opportunity available to me, it wouldn't be back to school. It wouldn't be Halloween or anything like that. It would be Q4. And I'd go out and I'd find as many toys and giftable items and sell those more than I would anything else. TGS, if an account gets fully deactivated, would the remaining pending payout still be given to the seller? Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Ooh, this one is a loaded question, my friend. At what point do you think it's appropriate to switch to selling on Amazon full time? The right answer to this question, I don't know if there is a right answer to this question. I did it too soon. I took a bit of a leap of faith, and I had a 6-month runway. I know other people who make a full-time income from their Amazon business and still have a 9-to-5. At the very least, what the safest thing to do would be, in my opinion, is that you've got a 6-month buffer saved up in personal funds. You could cover the mortgage or rent and your car payments and all your bills for at least 6 months. And you've also got enough coming out of your Amazon business that you can pay all of the bills you're responsible for out of your Amazon income, while still being able to have the business stay at the point that it's at, or you being able to reinvest a portion of it while still pulling out an income so you can continue to grow. That would be the Dave Ramsey. That's the answer as close to Dave Ramsey as I can comfortably get. But if you were, I'll be completely honest with you. 7-8 years ago, I had a kid who worked for me who was 19 years old, and he was out sourcing books, and he was like, "Oh, well, I'm going to have to, I need to go to college. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to get a job." And when I talked to him, I was younger and dumber. But I was like, dude, don't go to college. I said, don't Don't do what your parents want you to do. Don't go get a job. I'm like, just do this until you find something that you can work for yourself at. Sure enough, he was an idiot too and took my advice, and now he's a very successful realtor in Ohio. So I think it really depends.
Yeah, it's a lot. It has to do with your personal makeup, your personal wiring, because there's, two different people. I remember I when I worked at a call center for a car lot, the number one salesman, who just, he really made a lot of money based on the incentives that they had going on. He constantly bought stuff. He was constantly showing up with, a new motorcycle or, a new car. He'd, flipping negative equity, and he'd say what his payments were, and he'd laugh. And, in the quieter moments, I'd say, like, I've got a rough idea what you make. Like, why are you so reckless with your money? Like, why aren't you putting some of this away so you don't have to work at this pace? And he said his response was, I need to have bills because that's what motivates me. His debt load was what propelled him to, or that he thought that's what propelled him to the numbers that he did, which
interesting
is, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan. I got it. And I said, I think it's probably something else, but that's kind of how you have it framed. And if that works for you, whatever. But it was, I watched, are you familiar with Arthur Brooks?
That sounds familiar.
He was just on with Ryan Holiday, and he's making the rounds. He was on, actually, whoever that little nerdy guy that helps Dave Ramsey out. He was on his podcast. He's talking about, which I think it's cool. About, but you're able to buy happiness. Like, you can't technically buy happiness, but spending money on this stuff will make you happy, which is pretty close. And he was talking about charity, and he said he actually given money away. And he quoted a study. And again, this is just off the top of my head, so if I get some numbers wrong or whatever, I apologize. But he basically said there was a study that said that the people that gave more money away actually ended up with more personal wealth. But it was basically the same concept, because if you gave that money away, you were confident that you could not only replenish what you gave away, and then you would make more. You kind of had an abundance mindset, or you kind of shifted more that way. So you weren't afraid to give it away because it wasn't. You didn't consider it a finite resource, which there were some parallels between the two. One a positive outlook, and the other, a more debt loaded outlook. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
I've heard that story about, I think it was John D. Rockefeller. He thought that he was, I don't know, ordained, or like his mission, the reason he was born was to get as wealthy as he possibly could to then try to do good with that money. I wonder if how many people who give away money think maybe not exactly like him, because John D. Rockefeller was another level, but think similar to that. Luke, daily payouts is just 24 hours between every withdrawal, correct? Yeah, that's correct. Every 24 hours. Actually, I think it might be like 25 hours. There have been times when I know that I'm real close, that I got to wait a few more minutes or something. But yeah, it's every 24 hours between withdrawals. And then there's also express payout now, where you can get it deposited into your bank account within 24 hours rather than waiting for like 3 or 4 days. Robert says, I have a customer that returned multiple products and for fact did a switcheroo on all of them. I just noticed that on one item, Amazon hasn't requested me to create a removal order. So just wondering if it got back into my inventory. It's possible. It is possible. Any solutions for trying to add an existing listing or product to your inventory and getting the "this SKU cannot be found" message? I have not come across that personally. Have you?
Not that exact wording. I mean, obviously, we're familiar with the dog page, and
Mm-hmm.
I actually had I might have been slacking between building my shipping plans to actually shipping it out, but I I went to submit it in Inventory Lab, and one of the SKUs was gone. It was there when I built the batch, and then when I tried to ship it, it was a dog page.
Oh
No
man.
comment on how many days in between those two events there were, but yeah, I did have to change it. But it wasn't worded like that, so I'm not familiar.
Flamingo sold my first Brazil NARF product. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Sounds like a
Robert,
pinky in the brain thing.
right? Robert, how bad or good is the situation on Section 3 so far? I've been super diligent with my suppliers. However, hearing horror stories definitely slowing down my spending and willingness to scale more. So a couple of things. All of the Section 3s that I've had to have a hand in, there have been issues with suppliers. And so those ones not going well. Those are the ones where I've had to jump in and kind of help folks. Outside of that, some of them are taking a while to get reinstated, but it seems like if everything is legit, it's fine. And I'm going to go back to our conversation we had earlier today with Eli, because we kind of talked about this point as well. If this is something you actually want to scale up, you just have to realize that that's one of the things that might happen, and do everything you can to make sure that when it does happen, you have the ability to handle it. Have a little bit of money put away, have that attorney on call, make sure that all of your ducks are in a row when it comes to your suppliers, how you're vetting them. You've got all of your receipts or invoices. That's really all it takes that Amazon wants. Sometimes you have to deal with an idiot or two at Amazon.
Yeah, and also, I think it's worth mentioning that be careful with what you hear. It's people always focus on the negatives. So obviously the Section 3s, those horror stories are going to stick out in our minds. That's just kind of it's pretty natural. And from my experience, when not that I've followed up with a whole bunch of people, but I'm in a bunch of groups that have little subdivisions for Section 3, and people can kind of talk out things and kind of spitball solutions and what they're going to try and whatnot. A lot of times when you find out the backstory of what happened with that Section 3, you kind of understand why they got a Section 3. Like, it's surprised. The percentage is pretty high of people that if you hear the whole story, you're like, yeah, what did you think was going to happen? So I mean, that's the grain of salt that you should probably take that with. So, but there's
Yep.
it's never going to be zero. You're never going to get to a point where you're like, my account is gold from here on in. Release the hounds.
If you could get an account like that, man, you'd be able to sell that for anything you wanted. Richie, any tricks to getting my cost cheaper on SPD or small parcel delivery? I'm not using any placement fees. I'm paying $1 to $2 a pound. That seems well. I mean, I guess it depends on where you are in the country. If you're not using any placement and you're in Florida and you're having to ship everything to, say, Washington State or Oregon or something, that would make a lot of sense. Or maybe you're selling large, bulky, light items. That would make sense too. Honestly, I would see if inventory placement fees are going to make that cheaper for you. Sometimes it makes sense to use inventory placement. You don't have to ship to one place. You could ship to 2 or 3 or 4 places and maybe get a cheaper rate. So I'd probably give that a shot.
And if it's not oversized stuff that has specific requirements, think about maybe sourcing some small light stuff, not small and light because that doesn't exist anymore, but some smaller, lighter stuff to kind of fill those boxes up a little bit and kind of bring the sales value or the sales projection of each box up a little bit to help reduce costs if you can.
Yeah. Density is the best thing for inbound shipping in my opinion. If I could profitably sell bricks, that's what I'd sell. They all fit nicely into a box. They're heavy. I could, fit them, right into the right size box and be good to go.
I got 240 items into just 3 boxes today that I dropped off.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
I was like, oh. And the UPS guy helped me because it's a new UPS store, so they don't have carts yet that I could borrow. But I try to find the one guy because he's really helpful. He's like, "Oh no, we don't have a cart, but I can help you." Gave him the biggest, or the heaviest box. He regretted it.
Right. Speaking of UPS guys, the UPS guy in my neighborhood is fantastic. Really, really good guy. He's been delivering UPS for like 34 years or something like that. I was able to snag his number the other day for the first time. I've been working my way up to it since I moved here to this house, and I finally got his number. Made me feel really good snagging some new digits.
Nice.
So
hopefully this isn't snipped out of context.
Right. AB, what do you mean find a profitable product, and what do you do when you find a profitable product and sourced it, but by the time you received it, the ASIN has been unlisted by Amazon? Try to sell it on another marketplace or try to find a different ASIN. Chances are, a lot of times there are multiple matches on Amazon. You might just have to go look for it, sell it on eBay, sell it on another marketplace. That's really about all you can do. Oh, and AB, I think you're right. I think I was talking about Andrew Carnegie. Sometimes I get those dead guys mixed up. How do you find out if you qualify for Amazon daily payouts? You would be able to request the money every single day. That's about all you can do. And Richie, can I make a new SKU for an FBA product that I'm already selling? I just want to change the SKU name, but I don't want to delete the old SKU due to looking at SKU economics. If you're sending in a new shipment, I think so. You should be. If you're sending in a new shipment, yes. But if it's already, if you just want to replenish it, I don't think you're going to be able to change the SKU. I think once it's made, it's locked in.
But if you're out of stock on the old SKU, and then you could send something in with a new SKU under the same ASIN, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Jeffrey, I recall you guys said you source daily. If so, how do you have unlimited capital? No, nobody has unlimited capital. But here's the thing. Even if you don't have capital, I don't think that one should stop sourcing, because you will have capital eventually, and you may be able to go back to those things that you sourced last week or yesterday and source them once the capital comes through. Never running out of leads really is the name of the game in this business, more than capital. Plus, you can get a little rusty if you get out of the game for a while. So it's a good idea just to kind of keep things tight.
Yeah, and look, no two sourcing days are of equal quality. The last I source every day, but I have a daily sourcing. I have a daily allotment that I need to hit. I just basically take what I want to spend for the month, and on my spreadsheet, I'm sure most of you guys have seen it. It's available. My goal tracking, and it just chops it up into 30 days or throughout the month into a daily target. I if I'm having a good day and I go over, no big deal, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
that's how I source every day, because I have a range that I want to spend each day in order to get to the monthly number that I want. However, even if I've spent everything, it's good to, like Chris said, it's you can keep sourcing, because if you find a better quality ASIN, or you find something even more profitable and it's selling at a better velocity, it'll be nice to have that one from 2 days ago. If you have a bad day 2 days later, and you, under normal circumstances, if you had stopped 2 days ago, you would have to settle on something that maybe isn't the buy that you should really make, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the other thing is I think sometimes we overthink it, and we're like, oh, well, you know what, my credit card's maxed out, or I'm all out of cash. Capital is really not too hard to get. If I source today, and let's just say I found an insane deal. If I found an absolutely crazy deal, and I'm like, hey, you know what, this would be perfect. It's small, it's easy to ship, I can merchant fulfill this. It makes $30 per sale. I can get access to 1,000 of them, and I know that I'll be able to sell these in the next week. I know that I could call up Chris and I could be like, hey, man, I'm out of capital, but this thing is just too good to pass over. What do we need to do so that I could borrow the capital? You get a taste of this, and if Chris was like, oh, well, I only have this much to give you, I know that there's 3 or 4 other people I could call, and I could say, hey, listen, let's work out some kind of deal. And it would just make sense if you can sell that to somebody. I'd be able to get the capital without having to go to a bank or anything like that pretty quickly.
New number, who dis?
Right.
No, and Jeffrey was the same one that asked about the 0% APR with the business line of credit. That's the business line of credit doesn't necessarily have to only go to pay off the credit cards. If you have multiple channels that you can access, not that you want to sit at 100% capital deployed situation at all time and be at the mercy of the speed of the payback that you're going to get from Amazon, but having a little reserve, to where if you find something that is absolutely flying, that you could actually pay down whatever you tapped into before you need it for whatever structure you have, if you're paying off those credit cards like we talked about earlier. Yeah, that's a good idea. But give me more leads than capital over vice versa all day long.
All right, we're going to try to go through these next ones as quick as I can so that we can get to a couple of ASIN reviews. Corey, after making it through a Section 3 review scare, do either of you know how much protection Account Health Assurance provides you? I would not say that it offers you any protection. There have been people with 1,000 account health score and account health assurance, and they've gotten the rug pulled out from under them. So I would say 0. If I could say less than 0, I would, but that's not possible.
It's like trying to figure out what season of weather it is in Ohio. Doesn't matter.
Right? It depends what time of day it is. Is it, Mike, is it a good idea to delete old or archived listings out of Seller Central to prevent any potential random IP? Yep, absolutely. I think Clinique taught us that that lesson en masse recently. Robert, how optimistic are you that Amazon is going to make it easier for sellers to appeal account health complaints? Wishing that they announced something good for us at the Accelerate conference. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'd love for that to be the case. I don't foresee it in the near future. I mean, maybe one of these days when the FTC gets off their back, who knows? Anthony, any good recommendations on FN SKU labels? I just bought some new ones and they don't stick that good. Bet Key, I think, is the name of them. Yeah, I think it's Bet Key. Send me an email and I'll look it up for you. But I'm pretty sure Bet Key is the name of it, and it's not spelled like it sounds. It's like BETCHKEY or something. It's spelled very, very strange.
Yeah, man, bad labels are. I had that happen to me. Yeah, the key is moving forward. Once you find a brand that you can rely on, buy a lot of stock.
All right. Yeah, I had this idea a long time ago. I think it was my idea. If it's someone else's, I'll give them credit for it. But I had this idea of offering FN SKU labels like at cost, like no markup whatsoever, direct to the Amazon seller, in exchange for, like, email information, stuff like that. But it seemed like too much work. All right. Yeah. So we've got a couple of ASINs we're going to go over. One of them is a regular online arbitrage lead, and the other is actually an Amazon to Amazon flip with variations. So this very first one, it is a subtraction machine, some sort of weird looking machine to help kids learn subtraction. I don't know if this is new math or what, but this thing is currently $12.49 at Lakeshore. The interesting thing about this particular company is you can buy online, and oftentimes they will have them in store in your local area. This is a lot of teachers buy from this company, and so sometimes they'll have local stores. You'll see on my screen that the local store to me is sold out, so they say. I'd always do a little bit of phone calling just to double check that. But if you can't get enough online, because this is limited to 10, you can always call the store, see if you can get some there as well. It's $12.49. There's no discount gift cards at this place. There's no cash back. And they can be a little finicky about ordering. So, I never go the full amount that they say you can order. But the interesting thing about this particular product, this is $12.49 right now. Okay. This is an item that has been on my personal lead sheet more than once over the past year. It's been at least twice. And I know that I've seen this maybe one other time over the past 2 years. This is one of those products that just does a really good job over a really long time, even when the number of sellers goes crazy. All right. You can see here, it was up to 15 sellers. Right now, it's kind of back up to 12. But this thing is just one of those solid base hits. Sometimes it gets down to $30, which I think is still a break even. Yeah, 23 is the break even right now at $12.49. The sales are always coming on this thing, but there's not much to talk about on this one. It's got consistent sales via the BSR. It's got consistent sales in the number of sellers, consistent sales based on the number of reviews over the past year and over the past 3 months. There is some data on the monthly number sold from Amazon, 50 plus for a short period of time, and then it lost that 50 plus, which does not mean it's not selling 50 or more. It just means that it could be, and Amazon is not reporting it anymore for whatever reason. But this is just a nice, solid listing, and kind of what I'm always looking for, because you can see worst case scenario over the past year is I make like $4. Best case scenario is maybe it bumps up to $44, and I'm making instead of 9, I'm making 13 or 14 per sale. The reason I wanted to show this to you guys is because you can take these items and you can go into the data section you can take all of the details here and you can start finding products that look very much like this. Okay. What the average sales ranks are, what the average prices are, what the average drop in prices are over the last 30, 90, 180 days. And you can go and find all these base hits just like this with Keepa Product Finder to be able to create a nice stable of products for you, where none of them are super sexy, but none of them are huge risks either. And that's what I find super sexy.
Yeah. And well, anybody that's on this listing is probably upset already. But
Most
this
likely.
is the subtraction machine. So you don't have to stretch too far to realize that there's an addition machine, there's a multiplication machine, there's a division machine. This thing is so cool. My older daughter needed help with math. So I found this, or I don't know, it might have been on a list or something like this. And this was one of those that I was going to like take a 5-finger discount. I kind of added one quantity to it. And I was like, man, my little girl would really, she needs to get some reps in. And you are not kidding. They're finicky. I did a test buy +1. So I don't know, call it 6 units or something like that. They canceled my unit or my order, and they sent me an email, or I don't know if I inquired like, hey, what's the deal or something, like, why'd you cancel my order? And they said, well, we made the determination that you're a reseller, and we don't allow sales to resellers. Or how do they put it? What? Yeah, from our point of view or something like that, we feel you're a reseller, so we cancel your order. And since I had one for my daughter and I was early in my selling career, I still kind of do. I like to get my pound of flesh if they cancel my order because they made an assumption that I'm a reseller. I almost made a barbecue guy cry because I made up a story about having a catering service. That's a whole nother story. So I responded to the email and I said, well, from my point of view, you can go F yourself, or something. And I said, well, because why would you assume that, like maybe I have a daycare or something like that. Like, how does a company like that just determine? I mean, unless they had my prep center flagged or something like that, which is possible, but not that I'm going to not, lash out at them. But, and then they accidentally CC'd me on their internal email. The lady that I emailed with was emailing somebody else, and she goes, see, I knew I didn't want to talk to this guy. And then she tried to recall that email. It was great fun. Zero profit, but fun. I feel like I got my money's worth it still.
Right. That's a good one. All right. Now this next one was found with Flip Alert. Okay. Flip Alert is a newer software to the space that helps you find Amazon to Amazon flips faster than you might be able to find on Keepa. All right. This one actually popped up about 10 minutes before this deal was available on Keepa itself, but has not sold out yet. So this is a limited time deal. It's not a Prime only deal. Okay. So it can actually be taken advantage of. But this item is $23.04. The average buy box price on this over the past 30 days is $45, 44 over 90 days, and 43 over the past 180 days. Okay. Now, a lot of people would look at this and they'd be like, oh, well, Amazon's on it. I'm not hopping on it. But over the past year, even while Amazon's been on this listing, we can see that the number of sellers is moving up and down very nicely. We can see that the monthly sold on this particular variation is actually doing pretty well. There's been 200 and 100, even 300 in some cases being sold on this particular variation. So it definitely moves through. You just might not be able to sell a ton while you compete against Amazon, but there are some selling from third-party sellers. And the other thing people want to know is, well, how can I tell the variation listing is selling? Well, number one, Amazon tells us on some things. They are the ones reporting this monthly sold number. But the other thing you can do is you can go and you can look manually. Now, on this one, it does look like this one may have lost its variation, or I don't know, something weird happened with the number of reviews available. There were 43,000 and now there are 4,000. So I don't know if it got merged with something else and then unmerged or what. But so this one's a little confusing. But what you can do is you go into the variations tab on Keepa, and you'll be able to look at the, see, this is 5PG. Let me find out. Yeah. So this one is actually the number one selling variation right now. But the easiest thing to do is to look at the number of ratings, okay, and the review history as well. You can look at both of those things, and if they're going up and to the right, chances are it's selling through. And you can also look at the new offer count, and if that's moving, you should be pretty good to go as well. All right, very, very simple thing to do. This one, it will be profitable when this price comes back up, about $11.43. And again, this one was found with Flip Alert. If you're interested in trying out Flip Alert, you can go to cleartheshelf.com/Flip Alert and give it a shot. People have been using it, have been absolutely crushing with these kind of deals. So,
yeah, that new number bought in the past month has done wonders for my confidence as far as sourcing variations.
Right.
Tell you what. And then, this is another one with a good example that we've talked about. There are, you can look at those ratings and whatnot, but you also kind of have to do a quick little calculation in your head. You could probably do it on paper if you really got into it, but you see that top variation has been tracking 3,600 days. The next two variations, 303 days, 320 days, and then the bottom two have less than 150 days each. So kind of use that, because there are times where the 10th most rating, the 10th variation as far as ratings count is actually selling the most, because it's only been tracking for a much shorter period of time than the 9 variations above it.
Yeah. Based on what you're saying, I would see here. Ratings got 1 rating here. It's got 1 review. So these last 2 might give me pause, but I think I would probably sell just about every other listing on this one, if I could get them profitably, because of that thing right there. I mean, this one at 126 days, you see that movement in the seller count. It's moving really solid. Looks like it might even be out of stock right now. And over the past 126 days, it's got 5 ratings on it. It's got 2 reviews on it. I'd actually probably want to sell this one. Yeah. I'd want to sell this one over the one with the, a few thousand ratings. Yeah. All right. Let me pop that back here. There we go. Luke, Flip Alert forced me to blow through my 10K Prime credit card in 2 months. That's beautiful. All right. So
hashtag worth it.
Right. Chris, I'm sure that you, like a lot of other people, have been paying attention to a lot of attention, or more attention than usual, to the news over the past week. There's been a ton going on, but there is one story that I think I bet you and most people have probably not seen. There was a man over the weekend who just was instantly vaporized in front of his family. A witness reported that he will surely be missed.
Oh, man. That's speaking of, now that the vaporized widow is back on the market. I dated a girl with a lazy eye once. It didn't work out. She was seeing someone on the side.
That one is solid. All right, guys. on that note, we've got to see ourselves out of here. We will see you guys next Wednesday for another live show of answering your questions and having a good time with you. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.